Ethan had lived in Alder Heights apartments for 5 years. He knew every hallway, every strange noise the building made. So when he saw the door at the end of the hall, he knew something was wrong. It wasn't there before. The building didn't even have a basement, but this door, metal, rusted, with no number or markings, stood slightly ajar, revealing a staircase leading downward into the dark. The air that leaked from the opening was wrong. Stale, damp, too cold for an insulated building. Ethan's stomach twisted. He stepped closer, peering into the abyss. The stairs were concrete old, cracked with age, spiraling downward further than they should. A dull, yellow light flickered somewhere deep below, but it wasn't enough to see where the stairwell ended. His pulse quickened. He turned back toward his apartment. Maybe he was tired. Maybe it had always been there, and he just never noticed. But that night, he heard footsteps beneath his floor. Soft, slow, not coming up the stairs, just pacing. He barely slept. The next day, the door was gone. Ethan blinked, staring at the blank hallway wall. His mind rejected it. He had seen the stairwell. Hadn't he? Maybe it was a maintenance tunnel, a storage room. Maybe. Then, the footsteps started again. He heard them in the bathroom this time, beneath the tiles. The floor vibrated ever so slightly, like someone was knocking from below. That night, something scraped against the underside of his bed. Ethan didn't move. Didn't move. It was inside his apartment now. By the third night, he was shaking from exhaustion. His thoughts tangled. His skin felt wrong, too tight, like something had been crawling over him in his sleep. But he refused to leave. This was his home. His mind was playing tricks on him. Then, at 3:12 a.m., his phone vibrated. A new text, unknown number. It's open again. His heart slammed against his ribs. Ethan threw off the covers, ran to the hallway. The door was back. Wider this time. A warm breath of air leaked out, and for the first time, he heard it. Something was breathing below. Not fast, not labored, just waiting. Then the light flickered deep in the stairwell. A shape shifted in the dark. Ethan took a step back. The breathing stopped. Then, from somewhere far below, a footstep. Slow, deliberate, coming up. Ethan slammed the door and ran. The next morning, he woke up to find his bedroom closet door open. His shoes, which he left by the front door, were placed neatly beside his bed. That night, he left the apartment. He never went back. Naomi had driven this road 100 times before. A long stretch of empty highway, weaving through dense forest, with nothing but the occasional flickering street lamp to break the darkness. But tonight, the fog was thicker than usual. It rolled in slowly, swallowing the road, thick enough that her headlights barely cut through it. The trees became gray, skeletal shapes, barely visible beyond the mist. Then she saw the first figure, a person standing motionless on the side of the road. Naomi's hands tightened on the wheel. Her foot hovered over the brake. But something felt off. The figure was too still. Arms at their sides, feet together, staring straight ahead. She drove past quickly. didn't look back. A few miles later, another figure, identical, standing in the same unnatural posture. She drove faster. 15 minutes later, the fog grew thicker, pressing against her windows like something alive. The road ahead barely existed anymore, swallowed by the mist. And then she saw them. Not just one, dozens. Lining the road on both sides, standing shoulder to shoulder, their faces blurred by the fog, watching her. Her pulse hammered in her ears. She wasn't going to stop. She pressed the gas pedal, knuckles white on the wheel. The figures didn't move, didn't react, just stood there, waited. One of them raised a hand. It waved. Nami felt her stomach drop. She forced herself to look straight ahead. But as she passed, something moved in her rearview mirror. One of them was standing in the middle of the road now, facing her car, closer than before. She slammed the gas pedal. Faster, faster. The fog blurred everything. The highway twisted and stretched, felt longer than it should be. And then, a whisper, faint, just beneath the sound of her tires skidding across the pavement, coming from inside the car. Why are you running? Her breath caught in her throat. She glanced at the passenger seat. A figure sat beside her, face turned toward her. She screamed. The car swerved. The headlights cut through the fog, revealing nothing. No road, no trees, no signs. Just endless, thick white fog, swallowing her whole. Leon woke up to his phone vibrating on the nightstand. The screen glowed in the darkness, illuminating his bedroom with a dim, cold light. Incoming call. He squinted at the screen. His own phone number was calling him. A sharp chill ran through his body. That wasn't possible. He hesitated, thumb hovering over the screen. Then, before he could think better of it, he answered. At first, silence. Then, a whisper. His own voice. Don't let it in. The call disconnected. Leon sat up, heart hammering in his chest. He was awake now. His breath came fast, unsteady. He checked his call log. No record of the call. A bad dream, a glitch. His mind playing tricks on him. That's when his phone buzzed again. A new text message. Unknown number. It's almost inside. The hairs on his arms stood on end. Inside where? Leon swung his legs over the bed, scanning the dark apartment. Everything was still. Too still. Then, a soft knock. From his bedroom closet, he didn't move, didn't breathe. Another knock. More insistent this time. His mind raced. He lived alone. He never kept anything in that closet. The phone buzzed again. Another text. Unknown number. Don't speak to it. Leon's mouth went dry. He tightened his grip on his phone. And then, the closet door handle began to turn. His phone screen flickered. A new text flashed across the screen. Unknown number. Run. Leon bolted. He didn't look back. He sprinted through his apartment, throwing open the front door, rushing into the hallway. His pulse pounded in his ears. The building was silent, too empty. Then his phone buzzed again. He hesitated before looking at the screen. A live feed from his apartment's security camera. The angle showed his bedroom. The closet door was wide open, and something crawled out. Leanne's vision blurred with terror. The feed cut to static. A final message appeared. Unknown number. It knows where you went. A knock echoed from the hallway behind him. Carla first noticed it while brushing her teeth. A delay. She moved. Her reflection followed. Almost. Just a fraction of a second too slow. Not much, just enough to feel wrong. She blinked hard, shook her head, just tired. But the next night, she saw it again. She ran a hand through her hair. Her reflection's fingers lagged behind. A mistake, a trick of the eyes, right? Then, it smiled. She hadn't. The following days, Carla couldn't stop watching. She moved slower, testing it. Waiting. At first, the reflection stayed in sync. But some nights, it would just stand there. She'd turn away, but in the corner of her eye, she'd see it, still facing her. Carla taped over the mirror. She ignored the tapping that started coming from the glass at night. She didn't answer when it whispered her name. But then, one morning, she woke up. The tape was gone. The mirror was uncovered. And her reflection was closer to the glass than it should be. Too close. Like it was pressing against the inside. That's when she realized something that made her sick. The reflection wasn't copying her anymore. It was waiting for her to move first. She didn't sleep that night. At 3:07 a.m., she heard it. A wet, slow exhale from inside the mirror. She lay frozen in bed, eyes locked on the covered glass across the room. Something was behind it, watching. Then, a quiet, deliberate knock. The air in her room turned freezing. Her breath came out in short, shaky clouds. The knock came again, louder. Then, the sound of fingernails scraping, long, slow, like something trying to peel its way through. Then, I whisper. Let me. Carla ran. She didn't pack, didn't stop. She left the apartment and never went back. But 3 nights later, at the hotel, she stepped into the bathroom and felt her stomach drop. The mirror was covered in fingerprints from the inside, and when she turned to leave, her reflection stayed facing the mirror and smiled. Daniel had been driving for hours, too tired, too far from home. When he saw the flickering neon sign up ahead, he didn't question it. If he had to why, the building was old, tucked away from the highway, half hidden by trees. Too quiet. He pulled in, rubbing his eyes. The parking lot was empty. Inside, the front desk clerk was still, too still, thin, pale, smiling too wide. Daniel cleared his throat. I need a room for the night. But the clerk slid a rusty key across the counter. No words, just watching. Daniel took it and walked down the dimly lit hallway. The carpet was too clean. The walls too perfect. Like no one had ever walked through here before. His door was room 9. It was the only one with a number. Inside, the room was silent. No traffic outside. No hum from the AC. No creaking pipes. Nothing. Daniel sat on the bed. The sheets felt wrong. Smooth. Too smooth. Like they'd never been touched before. Like they were waiting for him. The TV turned on by itself. Static. from inside the motel. The camera showed the hallway outside his door. It was empty. Then, after a moment, a figure walked into view. The front desk clerk. They stopped directly in front of his door and started knocking slow, rhythmic. Daniel's phone buzzed. A text. Unknown number. Don't open it. The knocking continued. Harder. Unknown number. Don't let them see you move. Daniel stared at the door. His breath caught in his throat. Something shifted in the peephole. The knocking stopped. Silence. Then, the doorknob started to turn. Slowly, Daniel grabbed the key off the nightstand, ready to run, and froze. The key had changed. It no longer said room 9 Paul, it said room 10. But there was no room 10. The next morning, Daniel awoke in his car, parked on the side of an empty highway. The motel was gone. No sign, no building, nothing. His phone buzzed. A notification. Checkout confirmed. His stomach twisted. Something was in the passenger seat, a motel key. But now it said room 11.